Now, again, the third speaker. Are you guys interested in knowing who the third speaker is? Come on, guys. Yeah? So, okay, imagine if design could give us a glimpse of the future before it unfolds. Kind of like a prediction, you know? As new technologies and autonomous systems shape our world, foresights have become a must-have skill. That's where design fiction comes in, a creative tool that helps designers explore possible features, address ethical challenges, and keep innovation rooted in responsibility. So she has worked closely with UI/UX teams to anticipate long-term impacts on their designs. Her case studies show how imagination can align strategies and strengthen communication across teams. So let's give a big welcome to Deepshikha Yadav.
Thank you, Sid, for that introduction on the topic. Thank you, everybody. If I had a world of my own, everything will be full of nonsense. Wait, what? Does it make sense? Probably not, at least not yet. But maybe once we get through this presentation, probably some part of it will line in place. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Deepshikha. I'm a strategic foresight facilitator, and today we are going to dive deep into a fascinating topic of design fiction. Okay. So, before we get into the topic, a little bit more about me. I'm a futures facilitator. That means I get to do a lot of cool stuff in my work, and one of my favorite things to do is to bring people together and create spaces where we are just simply thinking about the future. We are diving deep, we are steeping into what the world will look like 10 to 20 years from now, what would be the impact of technology be, how will we live, and then what do we need to do now for that. But my intention is to prepare individuals, organizations, corporates, accelerators, digital nomads, creatives, to be ready for the future that's coming so that we don't end up in a shock. These books had been my influences. This is how I got started into this field of futures thinking. There's this author called Alvin Toffler, and his books had such a great impact on how I viewed the future world that is what the type of mission I feel I have is like to help individuals imagine what the future world are going to be so that we can ride the waves of opportunities that are there. So now, let's get to the topic. Let's dive in. What does design fiction mean? Like at its very essence, design fiction is a methodology. It's a practice, much like all these other practices that are listed in this map. So let me ask you, how many of you already know about design thinking, which is one of the methodologies listed here? Yes. Yeah, good enough for people, and I expected that, right? And how many of you have heard of speculative design, which is right there? One, yay, we have someone. Awesome. Yeah, so speculative design is like, so design fiction is kind of a subset of speculative design. And there are big institutes like Parsons School of Design, which had been offering speculative design courses from a long time. And design fiction is a sub-part of it, which falls between art and, like, it is part of strategy, but it's not as constrained as strategy. And we'll see how. Okay? So with that being said, what does a design fiction project include? Every single design fiction project has three main things in it. One, it contains an object from the future. It's a prototype, we call it, not prototype, but provocation plus prototype, prototype. Something that's there, it's not a functional tool, but something that's there to evoke some emotion out of you, okay? And each design fiction project also tells a story. It has a storytelling element to it, so each of the object that is created is telling a story of a possible future. And there is a setting to it, there's a world building aspect to it, which tells in which scenario this type of future exists. Because futures thinking is not about predicting the future, it is about thinking about one of the possibilities of the future. So let's look at what do I mean by that. So let's look at these examples. What you're seeing on the screen are three nonsensical objects. These objects don't really exist in the world right now, but they are trying to tell a story of a future world. What you're seeing is a currency, portable currency converter from the future, which you can use to check the validity of the currency you're getting. What you're seeing on the extreme right is a cereal box, which is made of cricket floor. Would you ever eat that? And yet, it is trying to tell a story of the future of food. What you're seeing in the middle is a drone aviary, which is developed by an organization called Superflux. It's an installation developed by them. Have you ever wondered when drone delivery becomes mainstream, how would it look like? What type of data will drones start collecting as they are hovering above us? And what type of decisions probably they'll start making on behalf of us? So this project, this drone aviary, tries to envision that kind of a world and to give us a picture about that. So each of these objects, even though they look like very futuristic kind of objects, they're not just trying to tell us the technical capabilities that are possible in the future, but also it is telling us layers and layers of meaning. Even the cereal box, which looks like such a simple thing to come up with, it's telling us what type of food will be there in the future, what will be the ingredients, what will we value, why would we eat something like that, what has happened for us to start eating insects like this, what type of packaging will appeal to us, what would be the price point of something like that. There's just a lot of story you can tell with a future artifact and convey a picture of a future, right? And these objects then they don't try to predict anything, but they serve as a conversation starter. They can be used with public discourse or with the conversation with your clients or other stakeholders to now think about the implication of having something like this so that we iterate and refine the future we are trying to build together as a designer. Okay, so what all does design fiction include? Even though by looking at those objects from the future, it may look like one of the main part of design fiction is creating these artifacts, like coming up with really cool looking futuristic type of objects. But that's just one part of it. Obviously, designers play a very, very crucial part in this aspect of creating artifacts because it's through your superior skills that you can help come up with objects that feel believable to the audience. Okay? But there is a lot that goes into a design fiction project. There's a lot of sense making that is done, which means imagining how that world is going to look like by extrapolating the trends that are right there today. There's a lot of storytelling that's done, and then there's a lot of discussion that happens with the stakeholders, which is then used to iterate the information and build more worlds. Okay? So, needless to say, design fiction projects are not just about designers. It's also about a collaboration with futurists, with design researchers, with a whole different set of individual professionals from different disciplines. Okay? But definitely designers play a crucial role in it. Without designers, it's very difficult for these other players to come up with objects that could really tell a story, which is believable. Okay, so to just give a very simple definition with all of that we have looked now, what does design fiction mean? Design fiction blends prototype and storytelling to bring possible futures to life. And these prototypes are different from the traditional prototypes. These are immersive experiences of possible worlds. Okay? Now that we have kind of sort of gotten a sense of what design fiction means, at least what the definition is, let's move on to look at how it's being implemented in the real world. How are different organizations implementing it? A first example is from that of Amazon, the e-commerce company. I hope I'm still visible with the range. Okay. So have you ever wondered how Amazon keeps coming up with innovative products after innovative products? I know Amazon is not there in Nepal, but I'm pretty sure you're very aware of all of its different products, right? And for Amazon, innovation is a core process for them, right? And they do that through a process that they call working it backwards, and which is essentially a design fiction process. What they do is they start with the future first. What do I mean by that? Even before a product is shortlisted, or when they are just brainstorming on their next innovation, their next product, what they do is they try to come up with a fictional press release. They are trying to write once this product is launched, how will the media react? And this press release is very much in customer-centric language, meaning what is making the customers excited. They are trying to think of all of those things even before they have decided what the product features are going to be. Accompanied with that is an FAQ document, pages and pages of FAQ document which list down what are the questions customers are asking, what are the questions teams might be asking. This gives them some idea on what are the technical features this product is going to have. And along with all of this, they also have a mock-up, which is just a sketch of how this process or this solution looks like. Okay? Now, they use this. The intent is not just to create this document, but they use this as a conversation starter among the teams to discuss and debate. It goes through lots of iterations and lots of changes, and by the end, they are very sure whether they are going to go ahead with this product or not. So it helps them with their go, no-go decision. In a way, it shows up very early in their innovation stage when they are just trying to shortlist which next idea they are going to go ahead with. But not only that, it helps them come up with the go and no-go process. And by the way, the way they decided, it's basically if they feel that the problem is worth solving, they go for it. If they feel like it's too small a problem or if it will run into a lot of obstacles going forward, they don't go ahead with it. Okay? So, not only does it help them to make their go, no-go decision, it also establishes, or Amazon uses this design fiction process just as a great tool to establish this team culture of solving for the problems of the future. Everybody is asking sharp questions about how we will solve these future problems. Okay? So this is one great example of how design fiction is used in the world. And because even though design fiction is like a very emerging field, Amazon has actually been using it from the last 20 plus years. So every single product of Amazon that we see, be it Amazon Prime Videos, Alexa, even AWS, every single thing has passed through this process. Okay? So let's move on. And now we look at the example from IKEA, which is a furniture's company, right? And to look at what they did, let's first look at a demo. We'll take a look at the demo of their concept kitchen, and then we'll explain more about
play
it.
Area. Explore creative flavor combinations. Get suggestions on what to cook based on things you already have at home. Be inspired by any tempting recipe. Set the timer to decide how much time and effort you want to spend. Place ingredients on the cutting board for advice on how best to prepare them.
Right. I hope you liked it. So what you saw on the screen, that's not an actual product that IKEA developed. That's more of a prototype, right? They created this video to spark a conversation. But the process that they followed to come up with this is what IKEA wanted to do was they wanted to understand the impact of sustainability or climate change. They also wanted to understand how the future customer choices are changing with respect to food and cooking. And they also wanted to look at the impact of emerging technologies, right? So what you saw on the screen had lots of AR in it, lots of technological things to it. But the point is not so much about the technological features. What the video was trying to convey to us is like how IKEA's products are going to make sure that they are nudging users towards sustainable behavior. So what you saw on the screen was actually how the table is guiding the user to give them the recipes to whatever they have already got in their fridge so that the food wastage is reduced, right? As simple as that. And that kind of feeds into IKEA's philosophy, which they called sustainable everyday. And what sustainable everyday, their philosophy means is, for them, they want IKEA to be nudging the customers to be making sustainable choices every day, especially with respect to food and kitchen. Okay? So that's what this project was about. By the way, they collaborated, for this particular project, they collaborated with IDEO, which I'm sure many of you will know. It's a design consultancy firm, along with a lot of universities. So, like I said, every design fiction project is a collaboration of a lot of different type of stakeholders. Let's move on to our one more example. Okay? This time we are talking about Ford. Okay? And then for Ford, what they did was they came up with a project called Cities of Tomorrow, and auto livery was the prototype that they developed. Okay? So let's take a look at that prototype. Audio. Can we have the audio? So what you're seeing on the screen is someone is ordering from an app. And these are the groceries they have ordered.
Are in the fridge and which are missing, Claire presses a button in the app to activate Auto Livery. Auto Livery is a vision created by Ford designers of how they envisage future delivery services. Just order the delivery whenever and wherever it's suitable, and the van will come to you. Even directly to the 30th floor of your building, because Auto Livery also features drones, which bring your groceries directly to your balcony. The service gives you back crucial time to do all the other necessary preparations when expecting guests. The groceries are here. Now, the evening can begin.
All right. So before I kind of explain this, I just wanted to hear from others. What were your takeaways while you looked at that video? What did it make you feel? Or what did you observe? Something that stood out for you? If anybody would like to share. Okay, I just threw this out in the, like I just put you on the spotlight. But what, on the surface, what it looks like is Ford is trying to imagine how the technology of the future is going to look like how will the drone land and at a person's place, or how will it fly, and all of these technical details. But Ford did not start this project with thinking about the technology first. First, what they did was they imagined how the cities of tomorrow are going to look like. How will the parking spaces look like? How will we move? What type of behaviors we will be having? And from that, when they envisioned this is the type of cities that will look in the future, that's when they started coming up with what are the different type of inventions that will exist in the world. By the way, they did this project in 2017, so they are not that far off from imagining the type of technology that's coming up now. But for them, why they did this project was, for them, it was a shift from just focusing on manufacturing the vehicle to moving to being more of a mobility service provider. So even though this video that they made, which was like a conversation starter for them in many conventions and other events, what they actually did was they used this information to feed into their current design choices. They used it to make the current products more leaning towards this place, because there are certain things that you can start implementing right away even if this future is not arrived. So they came up with something called a Ford app, which did some of these things and similar type of things. Okay? Now, you may be wondering that all of this is really good. Glad to hear that these big companies are organizing it in this way, but what does it mean for me as a designer? Okay? So now let's take two examples closer home from India, from design studios. Okay? So the first example is from a design studio based in Goa in India called Quicksand Studio. And what they did was they did a design fiction project on imagining how the future of humanitarian work is going to look like. So what they did was they imagined if a flood has hit Goa in 2035, and how are humanitarian workers helping the public. So what they are doing is they are trying to imagine what type of inventions exist in a world like this. Next up is a project from an independent designer in India. Her name is Priya. And what she did was, she did by the way, her project is a combination of many things: design fiction, critical design, and many other things. But what she did was, she came up with these projects called Skin Lab and Draupadi's Sari to raise awareness around social issues in India, right? So the Skin Lab project helps talk about the color bias in India. And the Draupadi's Sari raises conversation about women's safety, mainly related to their clothing. So it starts a public discourse by using these methods. Okay? So now, some of you may have read about this news. Just a few weeks back, there was a women's midnight walk in Kathmandu. Was anybody there? Or did anybody get to read about it? Okay. So this was done to raise awareness about women's safety, of course. And of course, these methods are effective to start these kind of conversations. But as a designer, you can jump into these kind of things to create much bigger impact using your design skill set. Much like how Priya did, she used these installations, she created this mannequin, she created her work in VR to have these conversations on scale. Okay? Now with that, we are done with the examples. There are multiple ways in which, I hope these examples were able to demonstrate, there are multiple ways in which design fiction can kind of elevate your design practices, right? From the smallest of things. So for example, next time you're having a client conversation, instead of trying to convince them by showing them numbers and graphs and reports, what if you presented them two futures artifacts to make them understand the pros and cons of the two scenarios or the two choices that's in front of them? And what if you used it from the smallest of things to the biggest of things, like how Amazon uses it to build its team culture itself, okay? So design fiction can play a big role in the whole process of design, and there are multiple ways it can support you with that. So with that, now we move to a more entertaining part of the presentation. So if you are thinking, if you actually are, maybe you are sold about design fiction, maybe you're not yet convinced fully why would it really impact me, but if you are convinced, then these are some steps through which you can get. The best way to get started is, of course, through attending workshops. And I'm seeing a shift in this thing, because there had been lots of big organizations which had been focusing on design thinking so far, and now they've started reaching out to start having design fiction kind of workshops. So for design thinking also, we know so much about it because there were big players and big organizations that evangelized it. And now the same thing is required for design fiction. You can also enroll for courses. There are a lot of prestigious universities, Parsons, UCLA, which offer courses on it. There's a really good book called Speculative Everything, which is supposed to be the Bible on it. And there are other books that you can read. There are also, the field is filled with lots of card games, which you can play. There's one notable one called AI Ethics Card by IDEO. You could use these card games to come up with stories and just build a narrative and use for your client work as well. And then there are a lot of games within futures thinking that you can play to start imagining together. Okay? So, to kind of make sure that you do get started on design fiction, and this does not remain just a theory, just a concept, or just a fancy word you heard about in a conference, let's play some of it right now. We are going to implement it right here, right now, and I want you to be on your toes, consider it like a rapid fire kind of a question round. We are going to go through 3 questions, and I want you to participate on it, and it's going to be fun, so let your wild ideas come together, okay? So I'm going to pose the first prompt in front of you. It is the year 2032. Your workspace just introduced a mind-controlled holographic companion. What will you do in first 15 minutes? So what's happening is, look at the picture. So the moment you put on a neural headset on top of your brain, a holographic companion comes in front of you. It's almost your digital twin. And your workplace has introduced it. This is the first time you're seeing it. It's the year 2032. You have just seen it for the first time. What will you do in the first 5 minutes? What would your reaction be? What emotions you will feel? What thoughts will run out in your mind? Just think about it, and if anybody wants to share what's coming up for them, just raise your hand and we'll come to you. But let's try if the Mentimeter thing also works for it. 1 second. Yeah, can we do the Mentimeter screen, please? Yeah. Okay, so if you scan this code and enter your response, we'll be able to see that. And in the meantime, and feel free to enter as many responses. You can enter multiple responses. But in the meantime, if anybody wants to raise their hand and answer it, feel free to go for that as well. And I dare you to attempt it. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Yes.
The first thing that came to my mind was I would make it attend my meetings.
Yes. Yeah, you'll send it to attend all of your meetings. Yes. What else? Okay, the responses have started coming. Yeah. Yeah, so someone is already putting their design hat on and giving it lots of features and okay, make it check your emails. What else? And by the way, these responses are anonymous, so you can write anything. Just be as wild as you think. So would you eat lunch with me? Oh, that is so cute. Oh, look for imperfections. Yeah, test it out. Play rock, paper, scissors. Good one. Yeah. Ask manager to double my salary. Okay, good one. Beautiful. Awesome. All right. So now that we are having a warm-up, let's move on to the next question. So we'll move back to the screen. Oh, no. I don't want you to see this yet. Okay. Okay, if we can go back to the PPTs. Yeah. So okay. So what we just did was we played a game called First 5 Minutes of the Future. This game helps you, this is a design, futures thinking game, and it helps you, it trains your muscle to think of like extreme scenarios and how you'll react in it so that you're more and more prepared for it. The next one, we'll continue with the same example. What if in the same product, there were 2 more features which were added? You can choose either one. You can focus on either one of it. It could be that there's a memory keeper feature which lets your hologram keep certain memories that you want it to keep. And then there's a memory eraser gadget which selectively removes some of the memories you don't want it to have. Okay? If you were to have this, what is the tagline you will give to this feature? Like how will you sell it to others? What will be the tagline for it? What will you say to the future user to go for this for this feature? Okay, so we'll go back to the Mentimeter slide, and let's see if that works. That screen works. And again, you have to do, if you have scanned the code already, you just have to click on the next question, and that should make you move to the next screen. But we were facing some technical glitches with it. If it doesn't, then we'll just do the traditional way. Yeah. Yes. And keep thinking, even if the technology is not working. Oh, yeah, are the questions? Yeah, let's see. Let's see if it's working. But if anybody wants to raise their hand and come up with a super punchy tagline, we are all ears for that. Be brave. Go for it. Okay. Is it working for everybody on the phone? Were you able to input? No. So it's not working. Yeah, there was some technical problem. But anybody wants to come up with a tagline for something like this? What would you call it? Go back. How will you say? Anybody in marketing here? Yeah. Would you like to give it a shot? Yes, come on. Okay. Yeah. Yes, go for it. To find out? Oh my God, yeah. Revisit your childhood to find the root of your traumas. Wow, that's a good one. And what you're doing immediately is you're thinking of the possible use cases of it. This is how users will end up using it, right? Probably it may feel like a good product to have, to sell about, talk about beautiful memories, but actually people are going to, yes, go for it. Yeah, keep going back and forth. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah, delete and come back. Delete and come back. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. But again, both of these examples are good examples of the use cases of how people will actually use it once this feature comes in. Okay? Okay, moving on. Last question. So do give your 100% to this one. Okay. Oh, good one. Okay. So this one, I hope you recognize this picture. I know it because I've been in Nepal from the last 3 weeks, and every single Nepali I've met, and I've asked them, how do you speak such good Hindi? They're like, Bollywood. So I'm pretty sure you know what picture this is. Anybody wants to tell me which movie it is from? Yeah. Awesome. And the name of the character, because it's written here, Sanjay Singhania, right? Now imagine, what if this character can use this memory keeper feature? What would the plot of Gajni 2 look like? How will he use it? Go for it. Raise your hand and go for it. What's going to happen in that movie? Oh, yeah. What a story. Yeah. Yeah, he's not stuck in that world. Yeah, he can move on, actually. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. What else? Say that again. Memory implant. Yeah. Yeah. What else? One more. No more? Grudges. Exactly. The revenge part is gone. Delete all of it and just live healthy, and so no killings. Or maybe he killed already, so he just don't need to remember that anymore. The grudges are over. Yeah, but he can find peace again now. Beautiful. Awesome. So what we just did, it's actually a legit process. It's called pastiche scenarios, and in which we just imagine, like instead of creating a user persona, you actually imagine a persona from the fictional world. So Apple had actually used this method when it was trying to come up with the iPods. So for iPods, it had imagined the character of Bridget Jones. Everybody knows Bridget Jones' character, right? So they wanted to imagine it for somebody who can afford an iPod, somebody who is prestige conscious, but for that also that character who had some peculiar characters, right? So Bridget Jones is very careless. So when they thought of how a careless kind of character will use something like this, what are the features they need to have? Like, do they need to have more battery power? What if she leaves it in the train? How will it get returned to her? Things like that. And they brainstormed on those features using her character. So such a simple process. You don't have to, especially when you're trying to come up with category defining kind of innovations, that's when you can use design fiction. And then design thinking can come much later when you have not narrowed down your invention. Okay? So all of what we just said might have sounded very silly, very ridiculous, and if it did, we are on the right track, because this is one of the famous sayings in futures thinking, that any useful statement about the future should at first seem ridiculous. So if it looks silly, then yes, we are talking about the future. If it looks okayish, then maybe we're just talking about the slightly short-term future, right? If you're really going to the long term, it is going to sound very, very ridiculous. Okay? Let's move on. So, to kind of revise what we have done so far, it's a simple presentation. It's almost like a design fiction one-on-one, because this method and this terminology is new to us. So what we did was we took a look at what the definition is, what does it mean, what are the type of products different organizations have built, and then how it is used in practice by some big organizations, so some real-world applications. And then we looked at how we can start implementing it right away. We don't need to wait, even though the methodology includes lots of other things, sense making and many other things. But to get started on it, we can get started on it right away through lots of games and exercises which are there. And now, for the last part of this presentation, let's move on to why. Why do you need design fiction in your practice? And before I my take on this, I want you to take a moment to just think, like, after this presentation, are you really going to start implementing design fiction in your practice? If yes, at what stage will it play some part for you? So consider it almost like a journaling question, and just we'll take a pause and just think, are you really planning to apply it? And if yes, where in your work will it start showing up? Okay? So just a pause for some seconds. Right? So think from your role. Are you going to start advocating design fiction? Or depending on your role, you're just going to start implementing it individually, even when your company is not really implementing it? Because as we have seen, even the PR FAQ method, it's so simple to implement that you really don't need anybody else's permission to start implementing something like that. And yet so effective. Okay? So now here's how I will approach this question for you. I have few questions in front of, in the next few slides for you. All I want you to just raise your hand if you ever do it as a designer, right? As a designer, would you ever design a chat bot that is racist? Raise your hand if you will ever do that. Oh, one, yes. Okay, good. I do want to know your reason though, but the mic probably won't reach there. Okay, so one. Beautiful. Next. Would you ever design prioritizing the KPIs of the company, even though you know it hurts the KPIs of your customer, like for example their health or the care, in favor of your company's KPI? Would you ever do that? No? Okay. Would you ever design an experience that frustrates your customers so much that the experience goes viral? The mistakes go viral on TikTok or social media. Would you ever do that? No? Nobody? Would you ever design something that makes your users feel like you're spying on them? Breaks their trust altogether? No? Okay. None of that was a hypothetical statement. Every single one of that has been a mistake that has already been done, and done by these big players, Facebook, Microsoft, McDonald's, right? Big players, smart players. So the hard truth is, mistakes do happen. Design mistakes happen. Even with the brightest of minds, even the biggest of companies, with the biggest of budgets, with the nicest of intentions. Mistakes happen and they have their repercussions. Sometimes the repercussion is just a bad PR for the company. But as we have seen in United Healthcare example, sometimes that repercussion is so dire that it could lead to loss in lives. Right? Especially with AI coming in, these repercussions are going to be even more dire, right? So we need to be responsible with that design, right? With our processes, with thinking about what is the type of product and feature we are bringing to the world. Now, I'm not saying that just by using design fiction, there won't be any mistakes, or it is a cure-all or a panacea. But at least just the fact that using design fiction, you're spending some extra time on imagining the problems of the future, the unintended consequences, what may happen, like thinking of many things, taking the perspective of the customer into account. Just the mere act of imagination, storytelling, having a discourse with the public, just this long process itself makes sure that these type of errors are reduced at least, if not completely gone, right? It talks about giving a lot of forethought in the design process before we get to the implementation phase. Okay? So let's face it, like the reason also to apply design fiction is because, as we have seen with the digital your digital twin coming in, the creative careers of the future may look like where your digital twin is attending the meetings on your behalf, doing your negotiations, even building prototypes. And what does the human me do in those times? Hopefully, it is spending time doing imagination, storytelling, and collaborating with different stakeholders, right? These skills are the basic core human skills, right? And the more human we are in this digital me era, the more we thrive. So are you spending time honing these skills while your digital me is getting upgrades after upgrades? Is your human being spending time honing these core human skills? And design fiction is one practice through which you can continue honing these skills. Okay? So with that, I will leave you I will leave you with few questions or few thoughts. Okay? I would like to wrap up by quoting Lewis Carroll again, which I did in the beginning. So this is a conversation. This is from Alice in Wonderland, and this is a conversation between Alice and the Queen. And Alice says, "There's no use trying. One can't believe in impossible." And the Queen says, "You haven't had much practice, young lady. When I was your age, sometimes I would think 6 impossible ideas before breakfast." So my invitation for you would be, as we step into the world after this conversation, to spend some more time in the imaginary, in the ridiculous, in the nonsensical, because that's where you can come up with the inventions of the future. Thank you.